Good morning, and welcome to Seattle Atheist Church. Atheists, agnostics, skeptics, whatever you like to call yourself, you are welcome here. At Seattle Atheist Church, we call ourselves an atheist church because you will never hear anything supernatural promoted from the podium. Our church was founded on the principles of scientific naturalism and secular ethics. Truth claims are attempted here, and we stand ready to revise our thinking in light of new information. We attempt to be excellent to all conscious beings, and we believe in good, because good works in non-mysterious ways. If that sounds good to you, then you are probably in the right place. So the way we do it here is the members ourselves give the talk, and then we have a discussion afterwards. If you enjoy coming to church and want to support what we're doing here, there's a jar in the back. You can drop a bill in there, or drop by the website, seattleatheist.church, where you can also see some past talks. Next, this coming up Friday is going to be movie night. Please sign up for it. We're going to watch the Mr. Rogers movie, Will You Be My Neighbor? And also on the 21st of October, we're going to have pumpkin carving. So if that sounds good to you, please sign up for it, and then details will be emailed to you if you sign up through Meetup. So without further ado, welcome up.
Good morning. So I just want to reiterate what Ruth said. I really hope to see everyone at the movie night on Friday. Won't You Be My Neighbor is a really good, kind of heartwarming, feel-good. It highlights the importance of kindness and compassion. It's really great, I think, especially right now. So bring your cardigans. Don't forget, we'll all wear them together and watch a great movie. So anyway, back to why we're here today. Biohacking. Defined by the Oxford English Dictionary as any scientific experiments with biological material, especially genes, done by people who are not official experts or scientists, either as a hobby or in order to make money or commit crime. Sounds pretty sinister, right? Not really. Biohacking can also refer simply to attempting to manage one's own biology using a variety of medical, nutritional, prosthetic, lots of electronic techniques. This can include the use of nootropics, psychedelics, prosthetic devices, or other cybernetic devices for recording biometric data. Like, how many of us have these on 24/7, in 2018? So the word biohacking in some circles really emphasizes the connection to hacker culture and hacker ethic. And that's not really something that I'm comfortable with. Maybe something somebody can speak to during discussion. But others use the word hacker in kind of the original sense of finding new and clever ways to do things. So I'll use it kind of more in that sentence, that way. And biohacking in general is emerging continually in this growing trend of non-institutional science and technology development. So biohacking, kind of as an umbrella term, can refer to several things. First of all, I'll just touch on a few. Do-it-yourself biology, DIY bio, have some fun. Which is kind of a biotechnological social movement, and I'll emphasize the movement part there, in which individuals or small organizations and communities study biology themselves together using the same methodologies as traditional research institutions. There's also a community called Grinders, which I wasn't really familiar with. I'll get to that shortly. And then just additionally, things like do-it-yourself gene therapies, people who experiment with some of these DIY, gene editing and intramuscular gene injections. So I guess technically gene therapy is anything that's therapeutic, like delivery of nucleic acid for therapeutic or, as a drug to treat disease. And then just simply things like nutrigenomics or using nutritional information to hack or attempt to take control of your own human biology. So quickly, to learn a couple of fun new terms, I mentioned grinders earlier. Kind of thought of as people who apply the hacker ethic, which again, like I said, I'm not particularly familiar with, but they apply the hacker ethic to improve their own bodies with do-it-yourself cybernetic devices or by introducing chemicals into their body to either change or enhance their body's functionality. Many grinders identify with things like the biopunk movement, techno-progressivism, and open source transhumanism. I'm not, again, familiar with these movements, but no other folks are, so I wanted to mention that. The grinder movement is also highly associated with body modification. And practices actual implantation of cybernetic devices as a method of working towards this transhumanism goal. And things like that, magnetic implants. See pictures of people picking things up with just their hands. Not really sure the utility of that, but why not? So next, a quick note about do-it-yourself biology, or DIY bio. Like I said, it's more, or kind of thought of as a movement by some people. DIY bio is undertaken by individuals, groups, like small communities, who have little or absolutely no formal training. Usually mentored, overseen by people in the corporate world or in academia. A lot, I don't want to say most at this point, but many major cities worldwide are home to organizations that actually maintain a lab, a wet lab makerspace, if you will, if that makes sense. So they provide equipment, supplies, classes, training, and then some also just have membership fees that allow folks to come in and kind of do their own puttering around and experiment on their own. Seattle actually has what I've heard, no personal experience, but Seattle actually has a great spot called the Hive Bio, which is right over here in Laurelhurst, like 10 minutes from here. And, not exactly sure what kind of classes they offer. I have seen things like, it's Valentine's Day, come and dissect a heart, So a lot of things for kids, but also, adult variety of programs. So, maybe if you're interested, check that out. So DIY Bio just makes these tools and resources available to citizens, to, science. Things like, you need a centrifuge? I can tell you how to take your Dremel, quick, cheap 3D printer, voila, open source lab equipment. Even things like PCR machines have been extensively recreated, all over people's garages. So with those few basics behind us, I'd like to kind of transition a little to 5 case studies. Y'all know I like a case study. 5 case studies that I've developed from both TV programs and literature articles, pop culture type press. So these 5 cases I've developed just to give us an idea of what's going on right now in America and maybe give us a jumping off point for discussion. So let's meet Susan. Susan wants a streamlined life and considers herself an early adopter of new technologies. She's a middle-aged mom of 2, and she gets implanted with a radio frequency identification tag. These RFID chips. I was at a meetup group event. They were chipping everybody. The chip, which is about the size of a grain of rice, is injected into the hand. Here or here. I've seen most commonly in this area. So the chip, it's just like a piercing almost, or an implantation, the way I saw it. So injecting an RFID chip into your hand. These chips are considered an obvious starting point for grinders who are on their journey of body mod and biotech or biohacking. So I know I counted last night at least 10 cards or passes in my bag or wallet that could be eliminated with one of these. Access to your house, your car, your kids, your pets, paying for everything from gas to groceries, limitless. And then, interestingly, upon the injection of her tracker, Susan said, "It was quite a cool feeling to see that I could connect with another device. And well, I guess that makes me kind of a device as well. That's pretty exciting." And then she reads out her serial number. "So that's my other self, I guess," she laughs. "Or my self. This makes you think. Something as simple as, what we have on our driver's licenses and debit cards, can leave one believing they're a device. Who knows?" And just by the way, let's not even start with data storage, data access, privacy, confidentiality, security. I'm sure in our group these will all come up in discussion, so I don't want to belabor that right now. So secondly, let's meet Gary. Gary's a 30-something filmmaker who lost his right eye in a childhood hunting accident. Gary wanted to seek a way to develop a camera for his eye, so he commissioned one to record his life 24/7, 365. He states, "I don't know what it means to always have video access all the time of anything, but it's just data. Does data make us create more data? We can always have more data." A man after my own heart. He goes on to say, "If you don't change, you're gonna die. And I'm hacking my own body. I'm improving my code." And granted, it does seem like there's always a character in sci-fi future movies with like a bionic eye, or even nice guys like Geordie LaForge, his little eye thing. So anyway, Gary created himself an eye camera. So next, let's visit James. James is a super connected guy in his late 20s who works in tech. Do we know anybody like that? How many of them, those guys, or us, like I said, wear at least one type of wearable health or fitness tracker? Like I said, I know I do. While it's nice to be able to ask your grandma how many steps she's got in that day, these devices some people take them much, much more seriously. So in addition to the basic things people typically have access to, walking, stairs, aerobic exercise, pulse rate, sleep duration, sleep quality, and then I know I can enter manually food, water consumption. But you can also take this to the nth degree and get connected devices that will measure your blood oxygen saturation, your temperature, your blood sugar, connect your scale, portable EKGs, and on and on and on, that can be synced with our smartwatches and apps. And to echo Gary, James says it's all data, just data. James goes on to state that he simply sees people as a pile of information, but goes on to ask, we have all this information, and if information equals knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? Right? So you might be thinking so far, James, Gary, and Susan, their biohacks or attempts at biohacks seem pretty innocuous. But let's continue on. Let's meet Monica. Monica's a retired elementary school teacher in her mid-60s. Monica's kids gave her a 23andMe genetic testing kit for Christmas. Excitedly, she confirmed her Irish ancestry, as was family lore. Monica was also relieved to know she wasn't a carrier of genes for Huntington's disease or familial breast or ovarian cancer. But she learned that something was amiss in a gene that codes for drug metabolism. Monica didn't know what next steps to take. When she went to college, the genome was barely a concept. And teaching English to second graders for 35 years didn't really enhance her scientific knowledge. But Monica, like the rest of us, did some Googling, for better or worse. But Monica's Googling really scared her. And so she decided to make a serious change in her daily health routine in response to these genetic testing results. Monica stopped taking her blood pressure and cholesterol medications, even though she wouldn't see her doctor for over a month. But she had chatted with others online who'd done the same thing and were successful and healthy. I'll let you think for yourself what kinds of sequelae Monica might have experienced or might experienced as a result of her trying to biohack her meds. By bettering, her knowledge of her genetic information. So I know also with this we can talk about the ethics of information and also ethical issues like duty of care, and what happens when you send these results out with no follow-up. But anyway, and then on top of this change, Monica is thinking of telling her pregnant daughter to get the whole genome of her upcoming grandson sequenced. Does this potential for harm multiply generationally? Lastly, Fred. Fred's a 40-ish scientist with several health conditions, including major depressive disorder. Fred's had moderate success with antidepressant medications, but wanted to explore non-pharmaceutical therapies. Fred saw on Facebook one day that the FDA had cleared, but not approved, a new machine, that fits on your head. Fred mentioned to his psychiatrist he was thinking of trying this. As it wasn't an approved device, his doctor had little advice. So he conducted a literature search, scientific literature search of the research to date, and decided that he would invest in a similar type of device, but one that was not FDA cleared. Based on Fred's own expert opinion, and I think we all might think we're experts at what our own body needs, but based on Fred's opinion, he believed a different machine better suited his needs. Fred had never played video games before, but he was forced to scour chat rooms of professional gamers, many of whom had built similar devices in their garage. Fred scanned these boards for critical medical advice for the best placement of the electrodes on his head. And who knows where Fred might end up by obtaining mental health treatment from a 14-year-old gamer boy in Iowa. So Susan, Gary, James, Monica, and Fred, they all took some level of risk in their own personal yet vastly different foray into biohacking. These guys, I think, are similar to you or I. Over the last couple years, I've personally taken part in conversations with a lot of y'all, both informal circle and outside church, people in our community, that have dealt with issues similar to those I highlighted. Discussions on nootropics, like the smart drugs, use of psychedelics for hacking of consciousness, dying, addiction, mental health. People have talked about experiments titrating their own medications or buying or using an at-home genetic testing kit. So I'd really love to hear some experiences as we go along. Yeah.
What does titrate mean?
Like
calibrating doses.
Yeah, like increasing or decreasing.
Oh.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Or like calibrating a scale,
Okay.
you know, zeroing it out
Oh.
too. Anyway. Oh, okay. So, well, I've talked about a few experiences with biohacking. I'd like to finish up with a final case study. The self-proclaimed badass of biohackers. Josiah Zahner, I hope I'm saying that right, is a scientist and entrepreneur who quit his job in a NASA lab to start a synthetic biology company in his garage. Today, for only $150, anyone can purchase his cutting edge, or the cutting edge gene tool, CRISPR, which is an acronym I'm sure you all have heard of. It clustered regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, but we don't need to do all that. You can do that through their online shop. Zahner champions DIY biohacking as the future of science, and he's often heard drawing comparisons between his work and that of like computer scientists and hackers of the 80s and 90s, the guys that eventually became the Silicon Valley titans. And I feel like he thinks of himself in that vein. Zahner's known for his stunts, which he identifies as social activism that takes place outside of any kind of traditional lab space. He has done crazy things like sterilize his entire body to transplant an entire microbiome. And so he did all this for a documentary, which is crazy. So he went to a hotel, scrubbed himself with Brillo, took capsules he made with fecal matter from another individual that he thought had a great, gut microbiome, and tried to completely replace his microbiome with a healthier one. Who knows, really. But it's an interesting little documentary. He had a squabble with the FDA about selling a kit to brew your own glow-in-the-dark beer. But the FDA said it was a color, which is a food additive, which had to be regulated. And since you guys might have seen like the fluorescent or glowing mice thinks the people have done some editing. But anyway, so this was just yeast that was glow in the dark. And then I guess most notoriously, Zahner injected his arm with DNA encoding for CRISPR that could theoretically enhance his muscles. It's not gonna work. Nobody thinks it's gonna work. But it's basically, for those who care, like myostatin knockouts. So more muscle, more strength is the kind of science behind it. So in addition to Zahner's crazy stunts, there have also been recent activities by several other biotech CEOs who have injected themselves with untested herpes treatments or untested HIV vaccines. Zahner recently said that he blames himself for such stunts and believes, and he has a kid now, so he's changed his direction in life, but he believes that eventually someone will get hurt. So I've mentioned a lot of things, but I'm not gonna go into them in detail. And I guess the first one, while I mentioned Zahner is kind of this DIY CRISPR pioneer, I'm going to leave it to someone else who has experienced great interest in giving a talk on CRISPR to handle that deep, dark rabbit hole. And then also nootropics. I haven't really talked about enhancing, your memory or your cognitive abilities with, pharmaceuticals, smart drugs. But again, another church member has expressed interest in talking about that, so I'll also leave that to them. Finally, I also wanted to mention psychedelics and the increasing importance of psychedelics in biohacker research. And I guess thirdly, there's somebody who wants to give a talk on psychedelics, so I'm not going to go there yet, but I would recommend that everybody get and read Michael Pollan's new book about just a variety of kind of the state of the science of psychedelics beyond just getting high. Anyway, so just to kind of end things up, finish things up today, I wanted to just touch on a couple issues that might be relevant to today's political climate, which I know has been increasingly coming up in discussions. So that's why I've kind of brought it up here at the end. With increasing drug prices, like diabetics are already diluting or rationing their own insulin, trying to biohack their insulin doses. Folks are even trying to biohack or engineer EpiPens in their garage because the price has gone up so dramatically. And then I did want to note that situationally, hopefully not, women could be forced to biohack their own family planning tools and DIY their own pregnancy terminations. So there's already a lot of ethical, tricky, crazy issues that I've brought up in addition to those couples. So let's circle up and chat.